All right. Make sure I don't run over my dog with my chair. He's off here to the side a little bit, sleeping his chilly, wet winter morning away. Right, Bosch? So, let's see. I guess that's got to go up. This should go over. And what are we doing today? I'm going to rotate that pose around just to see what we get. Maybe not. We'll do some small ones to start off with here. Get a little trusty orange pencil going. Let's put on some music. So I heard that. I haven't heard this one yet. No, I'm not plugged in. Oops. One more step. There we go. Love to have that going in the background, but I don't need the copyright gods to yell at me, right? A little bit louder. Alright. Yeah, just start off with some smaller ones up here. Guess you can zoom in there. Yes, I have, this is just a brown paper, and then this is an orange 2mm lead from Statler, so it looks like that. Just goes inside this pencil holder. So, that's what I'm using. I'll probably use pencil, maybe I'll use ink on top, we'll see how I'm feeling today, but so that's the material. Alright, here, and then the white stuff on here is like the deleter whiteout or white 2. In case you're wondering, so that's this stuff right here, deleter white 2. Spilled some ink on it a while ago. I get a lot of these supplies from what's it called? Jetpens.com in the United States. I'm not sure you get it outside. So yeah, it's a site that sells like Japanese stuff. So that's what we got going on here. This ink is somewhat erasable, at least on this paper. Um, but yeah, I like kind of the warmth of it. I tend to hop around different colors for the lead on there. So sometimes a red. White paper like to mix like the red and blue together. So that's what I got for materials today. Yeah, so don't ever hesitate to pop in and ask those kinds of questions. Yeah, so that's what we got going on. This hasn't been all that great. Let's see what else we got here. Nothing there. Good, more people coming in. Oops, sorry, Bosch. Let's see, give that a try. morning. There you go. It's really dark. Are you ready for some more winter weather this week? It's always very exciting, right? Winter weather. No? Yeah, we got pushed online this week at my school. Well, you know, that's the magic of having 4 seasons, right? And that's part of why I moved where I moved to, is I wanted seasons. But I'm not. We don't have that kind of snow here, at least where I'm at. In Virginia. Still. Eraser. So you just wait for it to melt, right? You just wait and wait and wait and never go outside again. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. Again, you know, I looked at my kind of plein air activity from when I was in Florida, and I did 2 paintings in state. One was in my yard, and then one was like the summer I left. Just really didn't like the weather out there. The climate really bothered me. Yeah, so that's the price, though, right? It's some inclement weather. I thought I didn't have it down in Florida, right, with hurricanes and all the good stuff, but but some people really liked it. I was just the one who did not like the weather down there. Um, that was just me, you know. Yeah, because there were plenty of people that loved it out there. I just was not one of them. I haven't really done that as much. I suppose I could. I did a long time ago. Usually, when I'm going to do something digital, I'll do it, digital. These are really kind of just more studies. I'm working with these little figurines I picked up not too long ago, and about a week ago or so. So I'm trying to use them to kind of help me out with poses. So I've got some posed up over there, and so that's what I'm kind of working with, just kind of playing around. Because one of the things that I've been trying to focus on the last year really is kind of my invented characters and poses and things like that. Just something I had never put a lot of emphasis on. Like I've done a lot of figure drawing, taught figure drawing since 2004, but I never put much emphasis in like inventing characters or even doing a lot of kind of narrative drawing or painting, a lot of landscapes. Well, it happened kind of when I was getting close to graduation. I was looking at the game market for concept art, and I kind of recognized that ultimately there wasn't a lot of characters in a game back then, 2003, 2002, 2004, and And so I was like, oh, environments, I should focus on that. And so I did, a lot of landscape painting and all of that, and then shifted actually a lot to painting. Got my master's in painting from New York Academy, and then but I really focused a lot on landscape overall, or environments, over figure stuff in terms of imagination and invention, and but kind of the new job I have from teaching a lot of concept drawing and things like that, I figured now would be a good opportunity to kind of re-examine that and kind of develop my own my skill set in that area more. So I've spent a lot of time over the last year kind of looking at how to approach that. I think I'm getting close to where I want to be. I'm not quite there. Like, this character feels a little stiff, but I think it's definitely. And these aren't, I'm spending the morning study on these, so it's not like I'm coming back and revising these and updating them too much. But and trying to emphasize the female figure, largely just because it tends to be a lot more challenging to draw. So definitely emphasizing that a lot. So I should move that up here and make it more visible. So that's kind of what I got going on with these morning studies anyway. So I like to get up and I was spending actually a couple hours a day on these with on my own. So I had to start live streaming it just because, why not? But then cut it back to about an hour, just so I can get all the other things I need to get done. But definitely into the whole plein air thing. I actually I didn't do a lot of art for about 2 years, because I was constructing a mini camper out of my Nissan Xterra, and that took a lot of research and time and energy, and so I was designing it and building it all at the same time. After doing a ton of research on the project, learning electrical and plumbing and all that good stuff, and then I've been able to take it out starting right away, but definitely having that being the emphasis over the construction of it now that it's done. But see. But again, just trying to come on, spend an hour. So I was doing copy stuff before. You may have seen that. when I was working on that. But I do digital stuff too, obviously. But when I do digital, I tend to do that just straight up on the computer or the iPad or whatever. Rather than going from traditional to digital. See it for like coloring comics or whatever. But if I want to color those up or something. Good morning, people popping in. Happy President's Day weekend. Anyone find any good deals out there? Anything interesting or worth checking out? I haven't looked around that much. I'm kind of trying to settle into the place I've moved into finally. I've only been here for like a year and a half. And figured I should probably try and move in a little bit. Doing 30 minutes in, huh? I've been working on a concept project overall, and but that's all digital. There's some pencil drawing in there too, but I try to keep the digital stuff digital, pencil stuff pencil, 3D stuff 3D. So, but that's a whole other animal. Yeah. Yeah, do they call that trud digital, right? Um, trud digital. It used to be more common, where the people would, scan their drawings and then paint them. Back when I first was working. Um, but I wanted to get some more mileage with these because I was doing these morning projects. I was doing more of a kind of a master copy thing where I have all these art books, right? And I was like, well, I should start using them. So it really started a few years ago, but it kind of got put on hold. And then when I moved here, I started back up on it pretty actively. Well, actually, just before moving here, but where I take like the books that I have because I've got all these art of books and artists kind of how-to books, like Loomis or Marcos Matea Meister, etc., and started doing copy studies from them, and just did the Tara Whitlatch Science of Creature Design, which was really good. And looking at other books, they're largely similar in a lot of ways. I think that one is more emphasizes like how she goes from studies of real things into imagined creatures. But the other ones kind of do similar things. And then I was gonna do some like photo based figure studies here, but but I was getting yelled at by the algorithm, so I said I can't really do that, at least not online. So I might do that separately. Yeah, Leyendecker, he's always really great. JC. Yeah, he's always someone worth checking out. All right, let's get some of my white on here. Yeah, never go wrong with JC. I mean, he was someone who was very meticulous about working from life, even in the era of photography. And that was like a disagreement he had with one of his mentees, which was Norman Rockwell. And but I love all the little studies and things he has for his figures. Maybe I should do that. Do a little morning study with him because maybe find a book that's got all of his or a resource that's got a lot of his studies and things in there. in addition to the finished work, because he's got such great gestures. Well, I think, all practice is probably good. Some practice is probably better than other practice. Definitely, I always say, working from the live model is probably best. But I don't think it depends on what you're trying to learn, too. So I think, there's certainly limits from the life model. Like, on the kinds of poses that they can reasonably do. Right? So you can't get someone looking really good running from a life model. You just, you can't, or jumping, right? Like I've seen, you'll see like old, 19th century painters or older where they're trying to draw somebody running, and it always looks really strange because they're posed. They're not actually running. And so there are definitely situations where, the life model can kind of hinder your opportunities. Though I think it's generally best to focus on drawing the figure from life. Yeah, so it's good to go back and forth. So like, good to draw from life, good to draw from photos, good to draw from these models. So part of what I'm doing these models, I'm trying to like make up the anatomy, and so what that does is it reveals to me when I'm trying to draw from these or just straight from my head, it kind of shows me where my limits are. What things I don't understand as well as I should. So I'm pretty good with human anatomy, like knowing where everything is and how it fits together. And I think a lot of kind of the stylizations that you see that are popular in like certain kind of manga or comic styles, where they oversimplify. I think part of what drives that, not 100%, but part of it is kind of this lack of awareness of what's there. But it can also add its own charm, because that's obviously our own kind of mistakes are often what our style really is. The things that we misunderstand or do by default. But at the same time, I think ignorance can be a big hindrance as well. I have to remember that. I didn't realize those two rhymed. I hadn't thought about that before. It's like you see that with a lot of how people get impressed with AI stuff, where they think it looks really amazing, but then you show an expert what's going on, and they immediately are able to kind of spot all the problems, whether that's in programming or art or whatever. It's like an ignorance machine. No, not necessarily. I think, actually, I have this whole little kind of pet theory. Let's see, today's the 16th, right? Move on to the next page. But I kind of have this little pet theory that, like, the digital tools, I think, might be getting in the way of creativity to a certain degree. That I think the more algorithmic a process is, and this is something I've been using digital stuff for, well over 20 years, pretty consistently. But I'm wondering if the digital tools get in the way of being creative rather than, opening up possibilities. Let's see, get over here. We're probably going to work. In the sense that, because they're easy to use, and let's see, let me try to turn somebody upside down here. Nice about these figures, it's nice to kind of be able to do unusual poses with them. But But I think because of the way they're easy to use, because of especially the smoothing options and things like this these days, I think maybe the fact that they're so much easier um, means it requires less intellect and development to actually learn to use them. And I'm wondering if that's part of why so much bad media gets made now. It's not that bad media didn't used to get made, but we feels like we see a lot more of it, um, because the digital tools require less from the maker um, to make things. And so I think if you look at a lot of design today, it seems like it goes back to the same well over and over and over again. That they're not really looking beyond um, uh, certain artists. Really, if you look at like the giant Slurpee day, we just got a lot of rain right now. We're looking at snow later this week, um, but but that's one that's been on my mind. Because we don't have to sacrifice. I don't like the word suffering, but we don't have to sacrifice as much effort and time, kind of mastering something due to digital tools that we don't develop as much. And I think it also lets in kind of lesser minds, lesser souls, lesser people, because they don't have that interest in that level of learning. So I look at someone like someone that who's a big well we all go back to in terms of concept art, who still probably will continue to be influential forever. But someone like a Sid Mead or a Ralph McQuarrie, they were using pencil and pen and gouache and acrylic and airbrush to create their pieces, and that requires like a certain level of balancing of multiple things that can all fail if their professionalism breaks. And a lot of them, you look at it too, like they what they knew and what they know, I think also kind of influences what they're capable of. So like if you have a concept artist who's gone through an illustration program or a concept design program, but they can do all the research they want, but if they don't understand like how a building is constructed, it's going to lead them to design buildings that kind of don't make sense. Even even though you can do anything you want in a game or a movie, if it doesn't it doesn't cohere to like our everyday experience to some degree, our understanding of how things work, then it kind of breaks. So I'm going to scoot this over since I'm just drawing in this little head right now. Let's see, move you over here. Sorry, just adjusting for the overhead camera, just so we're a little bit tighter in. And I can scoot you over. And zoom enhance, right? But I think if you kind of look at there seems to exist kind of a competency crisis out there, where people don't people you'd expect, even like physical type labor, people don't seem to really understand what they're doing a lot of the time. Like we ran into the problem. We had a guest artist here this Friday, and he showed up at our Yeah, I think. Well, the thing is, like, even with that output of content, look at how poorly a lot of it does. We've seen some major collapses this last year in terms of media production. Like abject, complete financial critical failures in media production, whether it's games or films, and it's because I don't think they were really paying attention that much. The tools have only gotten easier to use, so you think they could take that that effort that they had to put into development, into storytelling and game design or film design or whatever, character development, but they don't. They're not doing that. Yeah, so traditional media definitely slows the process down. And one of the things that people kind of, I think, at least personally, I think is a mistake, and I've had this discussion with fellow faculty at my school, is the belief that getting to the end product as fast as you can should be the primary goal. But I think that's just a mistake. I think there's things that you discover in the process of creation that become vital for whatever it is you're trying to make. And the more that you can kind of increase the opportunities for that discovery, the better off you're going to be. You look at, it's been in the news a little bit just because they've got that movie coming out, the remake, shot-for-shot remake with How to Train Your Dragon. But all of those dragons were designed by, Nico Marlet, or Nicolas Marlet. I think it's Marley. He's French, but he was using an orange pencil, brown paper, whiteout, ink, and markers. I've never seen any digital work by him ever, and yet his concepts, the characters he's designed for the Dragon movies or Kung Fu Panda or any of those DreamWorks films, or even back when he was with Pixar with working on Monsters Inc. Like, he designed characters that themselves, each one of them, could be $1 billion franchise. And so, and he's using simple, basic tools. And so, that's one of the things that I kind of see when I look is, the people that have these hand skilled, I hate the word traditional, analog, I guess probably be a better word, non-digital media. Somebody had to imagine. There had to be a mind, right, that did that, and that was Nico Marlet. And there's kind of this belief that if we can just kind of skip the creative process, and by that I mean like the actual making of things. I think people tend to think the creative process is like the painting you see in the museum or the movie you see at the end, and that's not really what it is. It's that back and forth, especially if you're on like a bigger project working with other people, but it's that back and forth you have where you're trying to kind of negotiate an outcome. And I think if you just try to skip that negotiation phase, whether it's with the media itself or other people, then if you try to kind of mediate that by skipping it, the only thing you're going to get is homogenized slop. Which seems to be the word of the day when talking about, say, generative AI stuff is slop, because that's what it is. If you don't, you pay, anyone that pays kind of attention to it, like, it's not really doing anything new. Like, I was disappointed. I saw there was it Makiej Kujari? I can never learn how to say his name properly. But he was like, yeah, this stuff's great. Look, I can make this little thing. And I designed all this stuff. And, like, all the shots are just kind of retakes from other media. Like he wasn't actually making a thing, which may explain like his fixation with, making 3D, anime that look 2D. He's not really trying to do anything that represents his own voice, but is out there, kind of just making things look like other things, and that might explain his fixation with that. But there seems to be kind of this fixation on like skipping the process, and I'm not sure what's driving that, or if it's just always been there, and I was just delusional about how I thought other people thought about making art and experiences and all that. Maybe I was just misunderstanding how people relate to their work. Because for me, like if you're not making meaningful work, then what are you doing? Like it doesn't really matter what you do if you don't care about what you're doing. It's like people do AI stuff. It's just like, it's like they don't obviously respect themselves or their clients or their audience. It's always about tricking people into being convinced that something has been done when very little has actually happened. But it's like the competency thing. We had this artist come visit, and he did a really great job on his lecture, and he had really great work. Problem stemmed from the people setting up the room. So we have like this auditorium room for his presentation, and the people in charge of that space were not able to have it properly set up in time for us to use the room, and our department has to pay for that space. If they are not prepared to host an event, then why should we have to pay for it? It's just kind of ridiculous that they would not be ready for us. Like, I get in there and like the computer won't turn on, like it's just spinning. Like, well, you just wait a few minutes, and I did. I'd already been waiting 10 minutes, and so when they walked away, clearly unwilling to act, I went and just unplugged everything to replug it in. After trying to do a fresh restart that didn't happen, it wouldn't work. Unplug, replug it in, right? That's a pretty standard thing to do. Because I was getting enraged. Like, what games are these hacks playing with us? And it was clear the guy I was talking to was not mentally all the way there. Like the guy who was in charge of the room. And I'm like, well, what are we doing? Like, why is this person who clearly is not capable of dealing with this room, like, why are they working this room? I don't know who they are. I just know what they're doing, and they're not doing their job, which we need to have happen. We've got a guest, we've flown in, we've spent a lot of money, we're paying for the space. Etc. So I was just like, anyway, it set off an alarm that then had freaked out that guy, because it set off this, like, it's something to do with the microphone system. When I unplugged the computer, it didn't like it, and so that made him go get his actual manager. Who this guy came in, and it's one thing to be kind of overweight. This guy was just like, he was like a walking, I don't know, Twinkie or something. He had like the weirdest build. Got that Chelsea haircut. And he just restarted the audio thing there, but it got somebody in there who ostensibly should know what's going on, and but yeah, it's just embarrassing that we're trying to have this guy give this lecture, and like the room isn't ready. Like what's going? It's just a basic thing. Like it's just a computer system that you prep, turn on and off, and get logged in, or help them get logged in. and they were unable to be ready. Um, I keep seeing that kind of thing going on around where people are like clearly not thinking about things properly. Um, Theoretically, university should be a pretty cush job, right? So you shouldn't have to work that hard. But like, this is just like, it shouldn't be that hard to have a room ready. Um, I go in and I set up my computer every day in my classroom that I teach, and yeah, but I've seen that it's one of the things that kind of led me to doing my own car repair, my own car maintenance and repair, was this kind of incompetence. And I took my car into I think it was a Firestone that I'd used regularly before, and when I was in Florida, I was having these weird electrical problems, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and so I took it in, and the guy looked at the car briefly, at the engine. He's like, "Oh, we'll probably have to call an electrician to check that out." And I was like, "Okay, well, maybe." And then I wasn't sure because what do I know about a car engine? It's not my job, right? Um, but I took it home and then I put some I belong to some Xterra car groups on Facebook, and so they asked me to put my picture of my battery and my engine up on the thing, and I did that, and they found the problem right away. I needed a new battery. What's it called? Battery. The things that go around the battery terminals. Well, battery terminals, what they're called. And it was like $20 later and 15 minutes of work, and it was fixed. And that should have been something that was obvious to the guy working at the shop. Like, it shouldn't have even been, a question. And so that kind of led me down this rabbit hole of like, if I could do that, or some other things that I'd already done, like I'd replaced the entire suspension on the rig before. Yeah, well, I think there's definitely something driving kind of all this incompetence, and I could guess at things, but I don't know, really what it is. But I see that in media all the time. Yeah, I mean, like when I was there in Florida, like if my landlady needed to have a plumber come by or an electrician, it was just $150 for the guy to show up, just to be there. There's no guarantee he'd be able to even get to it that day. It was just him being able to maybe diagnose it, depending on what it was. And I would do some photo sketching, but make sure we satisfy the internet gods with making sure her outfit goes on first. But or for like getting my car into a mechanic a while back, it was for a different place, so it was having a certain kind of problem. It was like a drop in mileage. I didn't know what was causing it, and so it took like 10 days before I could even get it looked at. And so I dropped it off, and then I couldn't really, luckily where I lived in Florida, everything's easy to get to by bike. But I have this e-bike I used all the time mostly, so I took it in, and he kind of replaced the fuel pump, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was really. Like, it didn't really change anything. Like, so you could use a new fuel pump or something. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess. This is another one of those incidents that was kind of that build up to me doing everything on my own, and that really didn't fix it. In spite of, I think it was like $600 or $700 to get that whole job done. There was a couple other things he did too while he was in there, but none of them really made any difference. Because it's Xteras aren't exactly known for their conservative gas mileage, right? They're heavy SUVs, but yeah. So later on, I did this smoke test. So I got this little smoke test machine just to check for vacuum leaks in the system, and I found a bunch, fixed those, and the gas mileage problem went away. Oh, e-bike fire? Yeah, that sounds scary. The batteries all get wet or something. Like, I love using. I bought an e-bike. I used it all the time in Florida. Because any cycling more than like 2 minutes and you're sweating like a pig. So I used it to go to work with, just because it was easier to get there. It was like, I think it was an extra 2 minutes on the commute to e-bike it in, or maybe it might have been identical most of the time. But it was great, because this one too, you could turn off kind of the safety on the speed, and I got up to like 31 miles an hour on this little e-bike. And that was mostly there was like a bike trail that took me almost halfway to the school. So there's like this old railway that runs through Sarasota, which was used by the Ringling Circus that used to be there. But yeah, I liked using it, but I haven't really used it since moving here. Because I walked to class, so my thought originally was to move within like 3 to 5 miles of class and then e-bike in. But I found a place that's like a 5-minute walk from school, so I haven't really had much use for it. But so I probably should just sell it, get rid of it. But I did get a lot of mileage out of it when I was in Florida. Like, I really liked commuting on it. You throw your helmet on and zip on over to work. And I have a regular bike too, so that's usually what I take out on my little camping trips. Found a really nice bike rack. I had to modify it slightly because the Xteras have a little bit of a different bolt pattern on the tires, so it attaches to the spare that's hanging on the tire carrier on the bumper. And Xteras have like a little bit different bolt pattern, so I had to like chop into it a little bit, but it's great because I can take the bike out on the camping trips where I'm going painting, get to where I want to go a little bit faster, or back, carry it up to the top of the hill and then zip on back down. So but I do think I should try it. I think my especially if I take the battery out, because it is a foldable bike, so it would fit inside the car, but I think I can get it on the rack safely. So I should try taking the e-bike out on one of these trips sometime. This would be nice to kind of have that as a easier option to zip around on the hills, especially in the summer when it's warmer. Especially if I'm just there really to paint, not so much to hike and explore. I do that too, but see if it'll if I take the battery, because the battery's like 7 pounds, The bike's pretty heavy duty. But yeah, it's not that hard to take the battery out. You just open it up and pull it out. Yeah, that's always one of the dangers of like the electric cars, right? Is they get wet, they catch on fire. Like it's a big it's a problem. That and they don't work really great in places that have extreme winter weather. So because the cold can really damage the battery. See a lot of people on the scooters, on the running around town on those little electric scooters. That seems like a pretty good option too for getting around town. Light commuting. Bike might be better for me just because it carries more weight, so if I need to bring a laptop and other things to school. I wasn't familiar with that actual fire. It wouldn't surprise me though, but with the lithium batteries. That's why you got to keep them. It's like a Battleborn that makes them for campers and boats and things like that. They have them sealed and inside their cases so they don't get wet. Yeah, it seems expensive though. Ugh. Yeah, but I do think as handy as the digital stuff is, like I do think there's a price that I think people have been afraid to connect with, and I think that it's partially related to this competency crisis. That if a tool requires less from its user, then the user, of course, is not going to put as much effort into comprehending it. And I think that's like a recipe for competency destruction. So there was a study done by Microsoft recently where it's pretty unequivocally, but it demonstrates that the use of AI in professional jobs decreases competency and preparedness to do that job. Which shouldn't surprise anybody, but they did a study, which is funny because they've got that whole Copilot thing going on. But they had commissioned this study, and that's what it showed, that use of those tools, like, it ruins competence. Like it's unequivocal, and hey, you can. It was linked on what's it? That 404 website that I've been linking to. There's an article there, but they link directly to the study. I posted it as a story a while back, but it's funny because their conclusion in it is maybe we just need to use AI smarter. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what your study is showing you, or that you're just hoping, right, that it'll make things okay if you just do things right. It kind of reminds me of when Hillary Clinton was running for president, and the Iraq War was still relevant. I think she was running against Obama at the time, and they asked her, because it was during the Democratic primary debates, what would she do different if she were running, the Iraq War? She had to do it or something like that. And she didn't say, oh, maybe we should never have gone in there. She didn't say, there's a lot of mistakes made about doing that, so maybe we should have considered other things. No, her response was, I would do it smarter. And that was it. That was her whole answer. What? It was like almost like a joke version of like a Lisa Simpson style answer, but that was her response to that question was, I would do it smarter. And that's scary. It's like 404 Media, I think, was the site that reported on it. They linked to it there. I think at the top of the article. They've been doing a lot of reporting on kind of the AI stuff. Well, he was funny because he was full-throated supportive of it, right? It wasn't like he was, someone who opposed the war initially. Like, he was all in on it. He conducted it. But, yeah, so that's kind of emblematic of that kind of attitude where it's like, well, I would just do things smarter, which I saw in that article, and I'm just like, I don't think you understand human nature very well. It's like, that reminds me, even during that lecture thing, we were having, the problems with the computers, right? And so, he was trying to get his lecture off of Keynote on his iPad onto the lectern computer so he could do his presentation, which is fine, but anyway, so that wasn't really the hard part of what we were trying to do, right? So all you had to do was export it as a PDF or a PowerPoint presentation, so it could go from Keynote to PowerPoint or from Keynote as a PDF, which should be fine. Just flip through that. Any of those would work just fine. Anyway, what our resident like super tech professor guy, who's he's not really someone I would necessarily define as what I think of as an artist. He's a production artist guy. So it's all very kind of about engineering and technical stuff. Anyway, he's all about the ChatGPT, and when we were having the debate in October, or the roundtable, rather, last October, like we were sitting there talking, and he was like searching on ChatGPT the whole time, in Espanol. He's from Cuba. He's Cubano. He left in there, I think, in the early 2000s or 90. There was some kind of open period where they let a lot of people that wanted to leave Cuba into the United States. But anyway, he's comes over, and I guess he still thinks we were worried about the PowerPoint presentation or something, and he had looked up on ChatGPT how to convert a keynote to PowerPoint on your iPad, and we'd already done it like 10 minutes before. And he held up his phone. He's like, "Hey, look what I got on my phone right here. I got this thing," and I kind of just looked at him. I was like, "We already figured that out." And because I was annoyed, I probably shouldn't have said this, but because I was annoyed, I looked at him. I was like, if you know how to do things, you don't need that. So, I probably shouldn't have said that, but oh well. But some people, it's like after a while you start, I want to respect all the people I work with, but after a while they start doing things or saying things, and I just kind of have to accept that that's what they are. And that I should probably deal with what people are rather than what I would prefer them to be. Alright, let's get some white paint on here and then call it a morning. So... I know he was just trying to help, but at the same time, it's just like, everyone in the department knows that I've come to hate these generative systems because it's pretty obvious to me what the effect is going to be. And it seems like that's panning out. There's studies being done that are demonstrating this. But what I found, people that really want this stuff, they just don't care what things are said. Like, and that's generally true of people. Is they don't really, they just want what they want, and the rationalizations you get are just that. They're post decision rationalizations. So they collect the information that rationalizes what they want, and I do the same thing. I recognize that in myself, but I'd be open to an argument. Like if I saw, oh wow, these people are doing like amazing, interesting things with these tools or whatever, and all I see is this like generic whatever, and then you kind of look at their whole business model for these AI systems, and they don't make any sense. Who's this for? In the sense of like who's willing to pay for this. And it isn't that many people, which is something they're finding out. That none of the generative companies, even the ones that are long in existence, like Microsoft or Meta or whatever, like none of them are making any money off of these systems. Like people do not want to pay for them. They might use them, they make memes or whatever. But people really have no interest in paying to use things like that. They see it as disposable as, a GIF that you can find online. And I'm sure there's people that have convinced themselves they're doing interesting work with it, but like getting to the things to function in it, is the AI systems to work at all, for as they do, it's required so much effort and with so little apparent potential return. Maybe there's something I haven't thought of yet, but and then people equivocate too with different kinds of systems, so they tend to treat, like there's medical ones where they're able to identify, say, cancers in advance or something like that, and but that's not the same thing as a generative AI system. And I do think those other ones will cause problems too. So even if they do catch certain things, they can only do so much, and it has to be verified by people who are competent. So if it drives the people that have to verify it into incompetence, that's going to cause a whole host of other problems. At least I think it will. But yeah, they tend to equivocate, the image generators and things with as being the same kind of thing as say some of the scientific pattern recognition that it's doing. But Alright, I think we're going to sign this here and call it a day. I can stop whinging about this and move on to something more productive. I really got to get started earlier in the morning. I think part of it is before I was doing copy stuff, and so that's really easy just to kind of sit down and go to work with that. And when I'm trying to do these type of illustrations here, it takes a little bit more thought and kind of prep to think about what I'm doing. But that's I should probably write down here. I always like to note things too, so this is like pin ref. If I didn't make it up myself, make sure I know where it came from. But anyway, yeah, thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it. And we'll catch you all next time. So back this out a little bit. And finish up right there. I'll zoom back out. There we go.